sometimes simplicity is a lot more enjoyable than, say, a narrative that's overly complicated and tries too hard. And this is certainly the case in every way positive with Homewrecker. This is the 2019 film directed by Zach Gane. I absolutely loved this. For a horror, also I have to say, IMDb describes it as a comedy and a horror. Definitely not. That's absolutely not the case. There are a few moments of, where you may kind of chuckle a bit out of awkwardness because it's quite bizarre what's happening on screen. But absolutely it's not a comedy horror. Where certain horrors and thrillers make things quite awfully complicated and try and give you these really intricate narratives to suck you in and make you question everything, this is quite straightforward in one respect, and that's the fact that we have very few locations. It's mostly set within one house. We have, for the most part, just two characters. And a lot of films fail at that because they don't make it exciting enough or interesting enough to sustain a feature length with just two characters. This film is an exception. I don't want to give too much away, so I won't be going into too much detail, but I did have one thing about the ending that I thought could have been better. The ending slightly disappointed me, and I will discuss that at the very end of this with a spoiler warning. But basically it's about two individuals, Linda and Michelle. Linda is played by Precious Chong and Michelle is Alex Essoe. And they both meet, they go to various fitness classes together, and then they happen to bump into each other in a coffee shop. Maybe it was premeditated. And Linda kind of instantly imposes herself on Michelle and says she'll join her for coffee even though Michelle's clearly working. Straight away we can tell that Linda has this weird interest in Michelle. And because Michelle is an interior designer, Linda uses that opportunity to ask Michelle to come back to her house and give her some thoughts on how she can do up her own house and maybe, look into hiring her for a project. And then after that happens, I think maybe 15 minutes into the film, the rest of the action evolves within Linda's house. Now, Linda is a good few years older than Michelle. This is something that's referenced throughout, but she's quite immature in a lot of her mannerisms and behaviour, and her eyes are amazing. Precious Chong does this incredible job of instantly making Linda seem so creepy, even when she's doing simple things like inviting herself to sit with Michelle for coffee, or glancing back at Michelle from the queue in the coffee shop, offering her a drink, watching a film. All of these little things are quite mundane, usually everyday things, and Linda is instantly creepy, and straight away I could tell that there was something about this character that wasn't going to be straightforward. And I didn't read the description on IMDb. The description on IMDb does kind of hint at the fact that one of these characters is not going to behave normally, to maybe want for a better phrase, but I wasn't aware of that. And straight away I could tell that this was the case. But to what extent and why, I honestly had no idea, and it gets quite intense. Now, what I really like about this is that it seems to take quite mundane things and makes them so compelling, because you have no idea what will tick Linda off, if you like, what will make her flip, because she is kind of, one minute she's talking quite nicely and normally to Michelle, and then the next minute she is a need child with the strength of a fully grown woman. And they're playing a board game called, what's it called, Love Hunks or Hunky something. It's a very peculiar, kind of very 80s feel board game about collecting kisses. It's very juvenile, and this obviously comes across a lot in Linda's character. And this board game must last for about 15-20 minutes. I could be wrong, but it kind of felt like that. But at the same time, it was so captivating, because it's such a mundane thing. But you're constantly on edge, waiting for Michelle to say something that will launch Linda into a rage, or make her upset, or make her lash out. just constantly this feeling of tension with a knot in my stomach, knowing that at any moment things could be flipped completely upside down and Linda could completely lose it again. And I never really knew where it was going or why she was doing this or what the point was until it was obviously revealed nearer the end. And that's good. The pacing is really great. It's not overly long. It's an hour and 15 minutes, give or take. But the time flew by. It really flew by. Absolutely love it. The atmosphere is just tangible and metallic and eerie, and with such simplicity to everything about it, it works so well. So the ending, I won't say what happens kind of at the actual end. I won't say what happens to the characters, but I will say that I'm about to tell you why Linda is obsessed with Michelle. So Linda is obsessed with Michelle as she tells her that she has been sleeping with Michelle's husband. And Linda, there's another reason why her rage is fueled. She's quite jealous of Michelle. It's a kind of womanhood aspect, but I'm not going to divulge too much. But basically, Linda was going on about how she'd been sleeping with Michelle's husband, Robert, and how she knew all of these intimate details about Michelle. And I thought, well, clearly she's just been stalking Michelle to get these details. And then Robert turns up at her door with flowers and is basically breaking it off with her and things. And I think the fact that what Linda was saying was true kind of ruined it a bit. It would have been even better if maybe Linda had, I don't know, seen Michelle and Robert one day after an exercise class. If Robert came to pick Michelle up, she'd fallen in love with him at first sight, decided she wanted him for herself, and went on a stalking spree. That would have been a lot better and greater development for her psychological state than what her words were actually being truthful. That sentence made no sense, but I'm sure you know what I mean. So I feel like I was a little bit disheartened because the character development for her had been so good. She'd been so manipulative. And then it kind of gave her a bit of credibility, almost. That what she was saying was at least in part true. And I feel like that ruined a lot of my feelings towards her character, but not in a way that made it a twist or made it, incredibly surprising. I just felt let down by that little bit there. But it didn't ruin my feelings for the rest of the film. I did truly adore this from start to almost finish. Very intense, and honestly, the scariest thing about this is that people like Linda do exist, people who are constantly on edge, who have been wronged in the past. There are certainly some aspects there from her teenage years and childhood and the way she's been treated, possibly by her father. These things are maybe hinted at, but not really explored, because that's, it's there for you to make up your own mind. Very speculative in a very fun way. Ultimately, this character of Linda makes this film amazing. I feel like Michelle is headstrong enough to try and get herself out of this situation. She's not just submissive to Linda's demands, but at the same time, she is younger, she is less experienced, she is maybe mentally not as strong as she could be. And it makes a fantastic dichotomy between the two characters. Ultimately, Homewrecker really, really pleasantly surprised me. I absolutely adored it. Almost perfect. Thoroughly recommend it.